What if I told you that the Bible has a story about a real witch? A sorceress so powerful that she summoned the spirit of a dead man. And it worked. A woman who practiced forbidden dark arts hidden deep within the shadows of Israel's past. A woman feared, hunted, and yet sought after by none other than a king. This isn't fantasy. This isn't a fable. This is the terrifying and mysterious story of the Witch of Endor. The year is around 1000 BCE. The great King Saul, once chosen by God to rule Israel, is now a desperate, broken man. His kingdom is crumbling, his army is terrified, and his greatest enemy, the Philistines, are preparing for war. But the real horror? Saul is alone. For years, he was guided by the prophet Samuel, the man who spoke directly to God. But Samuel is dead. And now, God refuses to answer Saul's desperate prayers. No visions, no prophets, nothing. Imagine that fear, the silence of heaven, the feeling that God himself has abandoned you. Saul is out of options. He needs guidance. He needs answers. And he's willing to do the unthinkable to get them. So, in the dead of night, disguised as a commoner, the mighty king of Israel sneaks out of his palace and walks into the darkness. His destination? A forbidden place, a secret location, the home of a woman everyone whispers about but no one dares to name, the Witch of Endor. But there's one problem. Saul himself had banned all witches, sorcerers, and mediums from Israel. He had ordered their execution. Anyone caught practicing magic? Dead. And yet, here he is, breaking his own law, seeking the help of someone he once hunted. As he approaches the old, crumbling house, he feels a chill, a presence, as if something or someone is watching him. Who seeks me? At this hour? Saul hesitates. This is his last chance to turn back. But no. He steps forward. I need you to summon a spirit for me. A pause. The air is thick. The woman, cloaked in shadows, studies him. You know the law, she says. The king has forbidden this. If I do as you ask, I will die. Saul clenches his fists. I swear by the Lord, you will not be punished. The woman narrows her eyes. Whom shall I bring up for you? Saul takes a breath. The name he's about to say, the name that haunts him. Samuel. A flicker of something, fear, recognition, crosses the witch's face. She kneels before a fire, tossing strange powders into the flames. The fire flares blue. She chants in a language long forgotten. Then, something happens. Something that was not supposed to happen. She gasps. Her body stiffens. Her eyes widen in pure horror. She turns to Saul, her voice trembling. Why have you deceived me? You are Saul. Saul freezes. How does she know? He never revealed his identity, but before he can speak, the flames rise higher, and from the swirling smoke, a figure begins to appear. Samuel. Or at least, something that looks like Samuel. His face is twisted in anger. His voice echoes with something beyond this world. Why have you disturbed me? Saul falls to his knees. His voice is shaking. I am in deep distress. God has turned away from me. The Philistines are coming and I don't know what to do. Tell me, what will happen? A terrible silence. Then Samuel speaks. Why do you ask me when the Lord has abandoned you? Saul's heart pounds. This is not the answer he wanted. The kingdom has been torn from you and given to another, David. And tomorrow, you and your sons will join me in death. Saul's blood runs cold. His body goes numb. Tomorrow, he will die. The flames flicker. The figure of Samuel vanishes into darkness. The air is heavy with something unnatural. Saul collapses to the ground, trembling. He cannot breathe. He cannot move. His fate is sealed. And the Witch of Endor? She watches in silence. She has seen something beyond death, something even she, with all her dark arts, did not expect. The next day, Saul rides into battle. He fights, he bleeds, and just as Samuel foretold, he falls. His sons die, his army is crushed, his kingdom is lost. And the witch? She vanishes into legend. Some say she was cursed, others say she was never human to begin with. But one thing is certain. That night in Endor, something ancient was awakened, something that should have never been disturbed. And once you open the door to the dead, you can never truly close it. Some say that the Witch of Endor wasn't just an ordinary sorceress, that she wasn't merely a woman who dabbled in the dark arts, but something far more terrifying, an entity, a being that existed outside the realm of mortals. Because what happened that night wasn't normal. Summoning spirits, that was forbidden. Necromancy was condemned by God himself. And yet Samuel appeared. Or did he? There's a chilling theory that shakes everything we know about this story. What if the figure that rose from the shadows wasn't actually Samuel? What if it was something else, something ancient, something waiting? Let's go deeper. The Bible doesn't say how exactly the witch summoned Samuel. It doesn't describe the ritual in detail. But those who study ancient texts believe that she used something far more sinister than simple magic. The region of Endor, where she lived, was known for something horrifying, the worship of Baal and Molech. These were no ordinary deities. These were gods of fire, sacrifice, and shadows. These were entities that demanded blood. And the most disturbing part? Their priests and sorcerers had one terrifying power. They could summon spirits, but not the spirits of the dead. Number. They could call upon something else pretending to be the dead. What if the figure that spoke to Saul that night was not Samuel at all? What if it was a demonic being, using the image of Samuel to strike terror into Saul's heart? Think about it. The real Samuel was a prophet of God, a man who had served with divine power. He was chosen by God to lead Israel spiritually. And yet, when he appears, he offers no hope, no guidance, just doom. That's not the voice of a prophet. That's the voice of something that feeds on despair. Even the witch herself was terrified. When the spirit appeared, she screamed, "Why?" She was a professional. She had performed rituals before. She had summoned spirits. But this time, something was different. She expected to see a ghostly figure, a shade, a whisper from beyond. Instead, she saw something that should not have been there, something that scared her to her core. The Bible tells us that Satan is a deceiver, that demons disguise themselves as angels of light, that darkness wears the mask of the familiar. What if the Witch of Endor, in calling upon the dead, unknowingly opened a portal to something much worse? Because after that night, Saul was never the same. He walked into battle not as a king, but as a man already dead inside, a man cursed, a man whose soul had already been taken. And the witch? She disappeared. Her name was never spoken again. No one knows what became of her. Some say she fled. Others say she was consumed by the very forces she called upon. But some believe she never truly left, that the spirit she summoned that night, whether Samuel, a demon, or something else, never returned to the grave. Some say it still lingers in the ruins of Endor, whispering to those who dare to listen. And some say that if you go there, if you stand in the place where the witch once stood, you can still hear the echoes of that forbidden ritual. The night when a desperate king met his doom. The night when a woman dared to call upon the dead. And the night when something answered. But here's the most terrifying part. If the Witch of Endor truly called forth a spirit that wasn't Samuel, then what does that mean for the world we live in today? If ancient sorcery had the power to bring forth beings from beyond, then where did they go? What if they never left? What if the same forces that whispered to Saul, that tricked a desperate king into believing he was speaking to a prophet, are still lurking in the shadows, watching, waiting for someone foolish enough to open the door again? Because history has a way of repeating itself, and those who seek answers from the dead may not like what answers them back.